welcome. The headline says four convicted for 2019 Hong Kong legislature storming riot. Ayodhya faces reality post Modi's Ram Temple event. Myanmar resistance battles to reverse military coup. US officially assigns blame for drone strike in Jordan, and Thai court blocks winning party's royal reforms. Stay with me for these and more stories. A court in Hong Kong has found four people guilty of rioting over the storming of the city's Legislative Council building that marked a major increase of pro-democracy protests over 4 years ago. On July 1st, 2019, hundreds of protesters stormed the building after a massive protest march against the proposed extradition bill that would have permitted authorities to send individuals to mainland China for trial. After forcing their way inside, they ripped portraits of officials from walls and spray-painted slogans calling for the release of detained protesters. An old colonial-era flag was wrapped over the speaker's chair, and a plaque bearing the symbol of Hong Kong was blacked out with spray paint. District Court Judge Lee Chu-ho on Thursday found Ho Chun-yin, actor Gregory Wong, Ng Chin Yong, and Lam Kam Kwan guilty of rioting. Student journalists Wong Ka-ho and Mei Ka-chung, a reporter with Passion Times, who were on trial alongside the four, were acquitted of rioting charge but found guilty of unlawful entry. Gregory Wong, during the trial, told the court he had entered the building only to deliver two charges to reporters who were covering the break-in by protesters. Video evidence played by prosecution showed Wong left the chamber immediately after delivering the charges to a reporter. Another defendant, Lam Kam Kwan, told the court he was detained in China a month after the storming of Lekko and forced to write a repentance letter. Police officers denied his claims during a cross-examination by the defense. 7 others, including the former president of the University of Hong Kong Student Union, Althea Sheon, and pro-democracy activist Ventus Lau and Owen Chow, last May pleaded guilty to rioting and will deliver their mitigation statements later on Thursday. They face a maximum of 7 years in prison. While the government eventually withdrew the extradition bill, the protests, which drew over 1 million people onto the streets, had already gathered momentum, and the demands had broadened to include direct elections for the city's leaders and police accountability. The protests were the biggest challenge to the Hong Kong government since the city's return to Chinese rule in 1997 and led Beijing to enforce a sweeping national security law in 2020 that has seen many of the citizens' leading opposition politicians and activists arrested, silenced, or in exile. Over 10,200 people were detained in connection to the protests for various crimes such as rioting and participating in an unauthorized assembly. As 500,000 people gathered on the gates of the new temple to the Hindu deity Ram, British Pathak looked on. It was the day after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had sanctified the shrine amid a national frenzy that had turned the attention of a country of 1.4 billion people to the temple town of Ayodhya in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, where Hindu scriptures say Ram was born. The devotees had turned up to catch a glimpse of Ram's idol installed at the grand structure built on the ruins of a 16th century mosque demolished by a right-wing mob in 1992. But as the crowd swelled, Pathak, the 32-year-old manager of a guest house, said a stampede-like situation was formed outside the temple premises. Buses and rickshaws were ordered off the streets, police barricades were put up, and more security personnel were rushed to the small town, incapable of handling such a huge number of visitors. Only a day ago, the city was India's most sought-after destination after Modi, along with a great number of Hindu saints, film stars, and business leaders, landed there to inaugurate the controversial temple. But as the PM and the celebrities moved on, Ayodhya was left to deal with a fresh reality. It's a city that is now expected to receive millions of tourists and pilgrims every year, yet is ill-prepared to handle such volumes of visitors, local business people and traders said. Like the incomplete temple that was consecrated ahead of national elections due between March and May, the city has been rushed into its new role. On January 23rd, after Modi and other celebrities flew out, many pilgrims were wounded and some had fractures as throngs of devotees broke police barriers to enter the complex. In reaction, the state's Hindu nationalist chief minister returned to Ayodhya with top officials to manage the crunch. In New Delhi, Modi banned his ministers from visiting the temple for some weeks. Now on February 1st, 2021, a military coup in Myanmar stoked widespread non-violent protest that speedily turned into an armed revolution after the military responded with brutal force. Ethnic armed organizations fighting for autonomy along the country's borders also joined the anti-coup groups in a war which has seen reach an unprecedented scale in Myanmar's history. Resistance forces shared not only a mutual enemy but also a longing to overturn Myanmar's military-dominated political system and create a federal democracy that grants the right to self-determination for its ethnic minorities. The BPLA, created in April 2021 by activist and poet Maung Sungka, is the country's only armed resistance group identifying with the ethnic Bama majority and which precisely seeks to fight the dominant role of Bama people in Myanmar society. Since late October, it has taken an active role in Operation 1027, a joint offensive that has brought major gains for anti-coup forces. Moving ahead, the White House said on Wednesday the U.S. believes an umbrella group of militants called Islamic Resistance in Iraq was behind a drone attack in Jordan that killed 3 American service members, its first official attribution for the incident. National Security spokesperson John Kirby said, "We believe that the attack in Jordan was planned, resourced and facilitated by an umbrella group called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, which contains numerous groups, including Kataib Hezbollah." He stopped short of assigning exact blame on Kataib Hezbollah, saying it was not the only group responsible for earlier attacks on U.S. bases. This certainly has the earmarks of the kinds of things that Kataib Hezbollah does, he said, adding, "The attribution that our intelligence community is comfortable with is that this was done by the umbrella group called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq." The attack was the grave most of scores of attacks that have aimed U.S. forces in the Middle East since the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel, and the first time U.S. troops have died under direct fire in the Middle East since the attack. The killed service members were identified as Sergeant William Rivers, 46, of Carrollton, Georgia, Sergeant Kennedy Sanders, 24, of Wakehurst, Georgia, and St. Breonna Moffett, 23, of Savannah, Georgia. Sanders and Moffett was posthumously promoted from the rank of specialist to sergeant, the Army Reserve said. On Tuesday, Biden spoke with the families of each of the 3 service members and will attend a dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base on Friday, officials said. In addition to 3 killed, over 440 U.S. troops were wounded. 3 of the injured troops were transferred to a hospital in Germany on Tuesday evening for further treatment. All 3 are reported to be stable, but 1 is in critical condition. Kirby said as the U.S. was preparing to react to the attack, there will be numerous phases of a counter-attack. He said U.S. intelligence was monitoring for signs of groups in the region moving resources around ahead of the U.S. counter-strike. On Tuesday, Biden said, according to report, that he had decided how to respond to the strike, but remained vague on what exactly the response will be. On Wednesday, a Thai court ordered the kingdom's most popular political party to end its campaign to adjust the country's notoriously stringent royal defamation law, dashing its supporters' hopes for reform of the powerful monarchy. The Constitutional Court in Bangkok ruled the Progressive Move Forward Party, which won the most seats in last year's election, violated the Constitution through its campaign to amend the lèse-majesté law. It ruled Move Forward and its leaders, including ex-Prime Ministerial hopeful Peter Limjaroenrat, sought to overthrow the constitutional monarchy through their actions. The ruling is considered a blow to the Southeast Asian country's reform movement and the millions of young people who delivered a crushing defeat to the conservative, military-backed establishment by voting for change. According to an analyst, it opens the door for more prosecutions to be brought, which could ultimately see Thailand's most successful party at the last election dissolved and bans and criminal charges levied at its leaders. In its ruling, the court said many move forward lawmakers had campaigned to eradicate the lèse majesty law, face charges under the royal defamation legislation, or use their position to bail out others charged under it. The court ordered the party to stop any act, opinion, expression via speech, writing, publishing, or advertisement, or conveying any message in other reforms with the aim to abolish or amend the law. The ruling could now make sure no party or person will legally be able to push for amendments to lèse majesty, known as Section 112, without violating the Constitution. Ahead of the verdict, Move Forward spokesperson Parit Wacharasinduhu said, according to reports, that the ruling could have far-reaching implications or place potential restrictions on the actions of parliamentarians and political actors going forward. But Move Forward lawmaker Waroj Lakhananderson said on social media that the reform move will continue wherever happened to the party. Now on more stories, EU to begin Red Sea military operations. European Union member states are prepared to launch a naval mission in Red Sea by mid-February, targeting to guard ships from attacks by Yemen's Houthi militants. Houthi-controlled territories in Yemen have become a hotspot for maritime unrest, with attacks aiming ships perceived to be associated with Israel. The Houthis claim solidarity with the Palestinians amidst the ongoing Israeli military offensive in Gaza, framing their actions as a reaction to what they view as a genocide in the occupied Palestinian territory. Joseph Borrell said the EU operation will be named as PAID, meaning protector, and its decree will be to protect, marshal, and intercept attacks but not take part in strikes against the Houthis. About 40% of European Union trade with Asian and Middle Eastern countries traverses Red Sea waters, making the region strategically key for the European Union. The mission's focus on maritime security aligns with the EU's broader efforts to safeguard economic interests and ensure safe navigation through critical trade routes. France, Greece, and Italy have shown interest in leading the mission, with 7 countries so far signifying they will be willing to send naval assets, diplomats said, adding that it will be based on existing EU missions in the region. The operation will initially see 3 vessels under EU command. France and Italy already have warships in the region, and Germany plans to send the Hasey frigate to the area, according to the diplomat. The launch of the ASPAID mission marks the EU's decision to diverge from the US-led mission launched in December, which has seen the US and Britain launch airstrikes on Houthi positions, reflecting Europe's reservations about being under Washington's command. The EU faces the risk of carelessly mounting tensions in the region, given the intricate geopolitical dynamics involving manifold stakeholders, stressing the need for meticulous planning and diplomatic finance in navigating the turbulent waters of the Red Sea. Maritime security is a primary concern, as the Red Sea is a critical global trade route between Africa and Asia, linking the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean. The conflict has triggered shipping firms to avoid the region, opting for a lengthy detour around Africa. This disruption, impacting over 12% of global trade, poses inflation and price rise risks for import-heavy African countries like Egypt, Ghana, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. While avoiding the Red Sea at substantial sailing time and cost, it opens opportunities for African nations to potentially benefit from added maritime traffic and trade diversions. Still on the news, Iran warns war may harm regional security. Iran's foreign minister said on Sunday at a conference on foreign relations in Tehran, war in the Middle East is not the solution. The comment came as Houthi rebels in Yemen, who claim they seek to stop Israel's offensive in Gaza, continued in vessels in the Red Sea. Unilateralism by the West in its blind, unquestioning support for an illegitimate apartheid and occupying regime has reverted all achievements by human beings in the field of multilateralism and international law, Hussein Amir Abdullahian said. Since the beginning of the crisis, we clearly stated that war is not the solution and that war could deteriorate the security of the region. This will harm all of us. Fronts in the newest war in the Israel-Palestinian conflict is also included, in one in the West Bank and one on the border with the Lebanon. The latest violence broke out after Hamas militias carried out an attack in Israel on October 7th and killed closely 1,200 people. The Israeli military offensive in Gaza has killed over 26,000 Palestinians, destroying graveyards, schools, places of worship, and archaeological sites. Now on sports, key quarterfinal updates in AFCON 2023. 8 teams have made it to the quarterfinals of the African Cup of Nations AFCON. Nigeria will play Angola at the Felix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium in Abidjan at 5 p.m. GMT on Friday. At 8 p.m. GMT, 3 hours later, DR Congo will play Guinea at the Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan. On Saturday, Mali will take on host Cote d'Ivoire at the Stade de la Paix in Bouaké at 5 p.m. GMT on Saturday. Cape Verde will play South Africa at the Charles Konan Barney Stadium in Yamoussoukro at 8 p.m. The 2023 AFCON has been full of upsets. All teams that reached quarterfinals in the 2021 edition have been eliminated. Nigeria beats Cameroon, Mali dominated Burkina Faso, Senegal was removed by host Cote d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea lost to Guinea, Egypt was ousted by Democratic Republic of Congo DRC, Morocco was stunned by South Africa, and finally Gambia and Tunisia didn't reach the knockout stage. The new African champions will be crowned after the 2023 AFCON final that will take place on February 11th. Now we take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more stories from Nigeria. Don't go anywhere. You are welcome back. Now, stories from Nigeria says EFCC combats religious sect over money laundering for terrorists. Yesterday, Ola Olukoyede, chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), disclosed why the war against insecurity has been prolonged, revealing that a powerful religious sect in the country secured a court order to stop its men from probing the 7 billion naira connected to some terrorists. The commission said it was probing a 13 billion naira fraud when it found that 7 billion naira of the cash was related to a religious body's account. Olukoyede divulged at a one-day sensitization event in Abuja on theme Youth, Religion and the Fight Against Corruption held at the Yer Adua Center in Abuja. According to the chairman, a different religious body was found to be protecting a money launderer after some money suspected to have been laundered was traced to the organization's bank account. Although Olukoyede did not name the sect and the terrorist group involved in the cases, he however said religious organizations, institutions, sects and bodies have been engaging in money laundering. The EFCC boss grieved that despite efforts of the commission to stamp out corruption, the epidemic of financial crimes and graft is increasing across the land, thereby stoking the need for a change of strategy and approach. The chairman pointed out that in a step to stamp out financial crimes, fresh approaches had to be adopted and applied. And finally, on the news on economy, CBN tightens grips on banks, caps forex trade, assets value. In a bid to further increase liquidity in the foreign exchange market, the Central Banks of Nigeria, CBN, has ordered banks to curb the net open position (NOP) of their foreign currency assets and liabilities to 20% of shareholders' funds. NOP defines a bank's risk exposure to its foreign exchange-dominated assets. The order was contained in a January 31st, 2014 CBN Circular Reference TED/FEM/PU B/FPC/001/001 issued yesterday. The directive is anticipated to shore up the fortunes of Naira in the foreign exchange market while limiting excessive trading and possible abuses by dealers. But yesterday, the Naira traded sideways, depreciating in the parallel market while appreciating in the official market. The development resumes the rising spread between the two markets, which has drastically breached 2 days ago. The circular, which was signed by the Director of Trade and Exchange, Dr. Hassan Mahmoud, as well as Mrs. Rita Sikefo, Director of Banking Supervision, was titled Harmonization of Reporting Requirements on Foreign Currency Exposures of Banks. According to the latest CBN prudential requirements, banks whose current NOP exceeds 20% short and 0% long of their shareholders' funds unimpaired by losses are required to bring them to prudential limits by today, February 1st, 2024. Other requirements include banks should borrow and lend in the same currency, natural hedging, to evade currency mismatch related with foreign currency risks. Another look at the top stories: 4 convicted for 2019 Hong Kong legislation storming riot. Ayodhya faces realities post-Modi's Ram Temple event. Myanmar resistance battles to reverse military coup. US officially assigns blame for drone strike in Jordan, and Fight Court blocks winning parties' royal reforms. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching.